Welcome to the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club radio show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. This weekend, we're covering technology and mastery with masterIT. We're also going to be talking about mental health with Methodist Healthcare's Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network. And education is a big part of today's program as well with St. George's Independent School later on in today's program. Let's go ahead and kick it off. He's a good friend of ours. He's a partner in the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club, a charter partner, and we'll actually talk about, he's been in since the inception, so 10 years in the running. But Michael Drake, he's the founder and CEO of masterIT. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm great, Jeremy. How are you?
Doing very well. You're a fun guest. You were one of the first guests on our TV show, The Spark. I always like to kind of throw you into the pipeline first just because, one, you do a lot of public speaking, but you also, two, you cover something that's so pervasive, technology. And you do a lot of publishing on the trends and ways to leverage it. But for starters, let's go back. I kind of teased it, 10 years in the making. So give us a little bit of the historical perspective for starting masterIT.
Sure. Well, I've been in the technology business for 25 years. And being a Memphian, I looked at the landscape and I saw that technology support, 10 years ago was mediocre at best. So we saw an opportunity in the marketplace. So we created this company called masterIT to serve really the 20 to 500 person company within the Mid-South with a fixed fee solution that really takes IT out of the hands of the user, lets them focus on their business, and we focus on technology. The outcome, it just works, and they are more competitive, and our clients are typically their market leaders.
Well, you always tease, you kind of compare it to a Muddy's cupcake where you don't necessarily care about the ingredients, you just want it to taste really good. But one of the big pieces of that, when you talked about the fixed fee model, is kind of breaking out of the traditional where I've got to buy a bunch of equipment that may not be scalable. And also, too, it may be outdated because when you talk about technology, it's so rapidly changing. So on your end, to make it scalable, it follows kind of a different model in the sense that you look at it per employee or per user group or per computer system, and then you kind of scale it up and back.
Right. I mean, if you look at the 10-year history, if you look at 2008 when we hit the financial crisis and a lot of people right-sized, we charge our solution really is on a per-seat basis. So that way, as you grow or shrink, it's scalable to your budget and the number of people that you have.
What do you think has been the biggest, obviously on your end, I mean, being a CEO, there's a lot of variables in play, but give us maybe one or two. I know working with millennials is a big one, but also, too, looking at technology, it is ever-changing. What are some of the big things when you've got your eye on the future and where masterIT is headed? Obviously, 10 years and looking at 10 years down the road, what are some of the big things that you're looking at?
Well, we published a white paper 4 years ago, and it's interesting. The more things change, the more they remain the same. I think the biggest, at least technological advance has been the smartphone and the tablet. When we started the Breakfast Club 10 years ago, it didn't exist. And it's kind of like asking the question, what did you do before there was a microwave, right? Because it's changed the way that we all behave. And that's a huge deal. Anything that can change your behavior has a giant impact not only on the economy but on our culture as well. So we've had to scale our operations around going from the desktop or the laptop, the computer inside the box. It's now escaped the box, and we know it's never coming back. So that's number one. Number two kind of dovetails with that, and that's cybersecurity. We've all seen in the last several years all of the press about hacks and personal information. And as I mentioned, the group that we serve is really the small and medium business, the 20 to 500 person company. And they say, well, what could, Target or Walmart or those breaches have to do with me? The answer is everything, because the cyber criminals are out there looking for where people are most vulnerable, whether it be a healthcare practice or an accounting firm or a nonprofit, people who actually have access and really a fiduciary responsibility to protect very protected information. And quite frankly, those are the people that need the security the most, because typically they have less strategy or less resource around that. So those are really the two things that we've concentrated our practice on. And I guess the final thing is you talk about millennials. Technology is a young person's business. However, we all use it, right? So our job really is to educate the market on what's available, because one size doesn't fit all. And that's where the consulting aspect of our business comes in.
Well, it's interesting now you're seeing, especially in a creative environment, you're seeing the traditional PC, and you're also seeing Mac and Apple. So you're seeing this merge, but also too now, I mean, the next rollout is going to be the iWatch. And so you have literally wearing computers on your wrist. And so talk about from a security measure, I think it's always an interesting conversation that companies struggle with is bringing your own device. So a lot of the employees bring their own device, but obviously there's a lot of security and liability issues with if that gets lost and there's emails and things like that that have proprietary information. Can you scrub it because it's not your technical phone as a company? Talk about just some of those aspects with bring your own device.
Sure. Well, I think number one, it comes down to culture. So it's a matter of what is the culture, what is the DNA of the company in terms of do they issue company devices, do they allow people to bring their devices to work, and then do they have the policies and the tools to be able to segregate. In our world, we call it sandboxing, to put into your sandbox what is the company's data versus what is the personal data. And then you have to have a meeting of the minds between the employee and the employer as to what they allow. And quite frankly, as an employer, there's certain things you don't want to see in an employee's personal life. So there's a real strategy that goes around that. But I would say, number one, before we get into all the bits and the bytes and the policy, it really comes down to just like everything else in life, and that's being aware, from a security standpoint of very simple things like having a security code on your phone. Apple makes it pretty easy today, with a fingerprint.
Right.
But, something like that, just to enact something very, very simple, because just like you do at home, you have different layers of threat management at home. You've got locks on the doors, you've got a security system, you have a way to call 911. The same is true in technology, is to have different layers such that if one layer is penetrated, then you can stop the crooks at the other layers.
What would you say? Many businesses look at IT as one of those necessary expenses. Obviously, it's functional. But really, this is an executive level, high level. When you look at technology and leveraging it for the best use of your agency, your company, your enterprise, these are very in-depth conversations that involve multiple stakeholders. And so it's everything from marketing and leveraging the best use and the products and programs and services. How do you view technology in terms of its integration in with companies?
Well, I'll start by telling you my background. I'm not a technologist at all. I'm a finance guy. And I've always looked at IT as a business, just like any other business process. And what we exist to do is to have people examine technology as to how can it leverage their business to be more successful. Simply put, technology behind people is the number one cost center within most businesses. So rather than looking at it as a maintenance item of how to keep on the lights, as you mentioned, it touches every aspect of the business. And back to the consulting part, is to help our clients look at technology and take it from what is to what if. There are a lot of options that are out there. Again, not one size fits all. And there's a precursor to that. And that is the first part of our practice exists to take technology from firefighting to fire prevention. That's the tactical side. And that's all about process. In 2010, we brought Tom Kalopoulos to the Breakfast Club to speak, and Tom is the founder and CEO of Delphi. And he wrote a book called The Innovation Zone, and he taught us a very simple concept, and that is innovation is not technology, innovation is process.
Right.
So in the first part of the practice, we, from a business perspective, run IT like a practice. And we've got 30 best practices of how to run a network, about 400 questions that we answer around that, kind of subcategories. And what drops out of that is a grade or a technology summary for the client. And it basically, if you think of technology as a box, and you think of how most people's technology exists as a blob that kind of expands outside of the box.
Right.
Well, our process shrinks the blob back into the box. And so what happens is we take IT from tactical and we just eliminate that. So when you don't have noise, then you can become strategic and take it from what is to what if. And that's a process. Doesn't sound sexy, but just like any other business process, that's how you improve.
Well, going back to your foundation, talk about your core values.
Well, we've got the 10th anniversary of masterIT this year, as well as the 10th anniversary of the Breakfast Club. And when I founded this company 10 years ago, I knew I had one chance to get it right. And God called me to this for a very specific reason, and it was really to help and watch people, young people, develop. Technology just kind of drops out of the back end of that. But I founded the company on 4 core values: innovate, communicate, face reality, and serve. And serve is our foundational core value. If you saw the logo masterIT, it's a lowercase master and it's an uppercase IT. We're a Christ-based model. It's a servant leadership model. And we feel like if we get the foundational core value of serve right, then the other things will just absolutely fall into place. And you and I've talked about this before. I think communicate as the second core value is so important because engineers and technology typically kind of go hand in hand in that they're problem fixers first and not great communicators. We as business people, we don't understand the technology of bits and bytes.
Right.
We just want to know, tell me that you have acknowledged my issue. Give me an expectation that I can live with, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 days. I'm a big boy. I can deal with that. So we spend a lot of time reinforcing our core values within our base, and we look for clients that feel the same way because, Jim Collins talks about core values. It's not important what they are, but it's very important that you have them, because if you don't, you'll just kind of blow whichever way the wind goes. And we want to attract people that feel the same way about technology and life that we do, and we work very hard on that.
Talking with the founder and CEO of masterIT, Michael Drake, and talk about, I think what's interesting is, it's serving your customers, but it's also serving the community. And you yourself are a big mentor in the University of Memphis MILE program, the LEAD program. These are leadership programs, basically bringing business leaders together with students to mentor and guide them, to polish them for success in the future. Talk about, I think, your role as a mentor and how much that shaped, because I like the fact that you always talk about how you get more almost out of it than they do by imparting their knowledge. But talk about your role in terms of being a mentor in the community and just overall the service aspect, carrying outside of your customer base really into the community with masterIT.
Well, the Memphis and Mid-South community has been very, very good to me, and I feel it's not, and you and I have talked about this, your book, Giving Back, it's not just giving back, it's just part of what we do. It's kind of in our DNA. And you mentioned before I work with millennials, and I'm not a millennial. I'm a little bit older than that. It's really served me well to be exposed to that generation and how they think and how they process information, because it's completely different than I do. So it helps me as a leader. But I look back in my college career, I wish I would have had a mentor when I went through, not to be my parent, not to be my professor, not even really to be my friend, but to be somebody that asked me, Jeremy, what is it that you want and what can I do to help you get it? And the selfish aspect of that for us as a community of Memphis at large is if we find very talented people at that age in university, if we can create connections with them, not only with business, but with nonprofit, with the other social aspects of their world, they're a lot more likely to stay in this community, make their careers here, their families here, and help change the fabric of Memphis for the better, one person at a time. So that's been my calling. So really, for me, it's been easy. It's just been an answer to the call, and the university's made it very easy for me to do that.
The other one, and we'll dovetail it in a second after we take a commercial break with our next guest, but it's called the Methodist Healthcare's Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network. And give us, before we officially take a break and come back and talk a lot about that, give us a little bit of your relationship and being a part of this organization. Sure.
Well, I'm going to come at this just as an average Joe in our community. I'm a business person. I'm not a mental health professional. But as someone who runs a business, I'm acutely aware of how people's situation outside of work affects their productivity and affects our community at large. Dennis and I were competitors in this business, in this industry, and he took his life in 2009, one of the most successful business people that I'd ever known. And that goes to show you that, mental health, mental illness is an equal opportunity offender. It affects every socioeconomic class of people in our community, 1 out of 4 by suicide alone. But my real interest also has to do with anxiety, depression, of which my family has a long, long history. We're dealing with it even today. So I'm here to talk about, that as an illness, not a weakness. And I think I just want to start a conversation and see where it goes from there.
We're definitely going to come back and talk a lot more about that, but let's go back because I do want to talk a little about just the easy connection points. So for masterIT, so for those that want to learn more about masterIT, what are the websites, social media handles? Give us some of the connection points.
Yeah, you can find everything on our website is simply master-it.com. You'll find not only the website there, but all of our social media presence, including masterIT TV, which are all of our videos.
Nice. That makes it easy. And then also, too, for those that want to reach out and learn more about some of the mentoring that you do and having you come out, because you're always a great speaker, especially talking to different age groups and youth on technology and really just leadership and training and mentoring and all the above. What's the easiest way for them to email or get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think just for my email address, which is mdrake@master-it.com.
So that's Michael Drake. He's the founder and CEO of masterIT. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back to talk about the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network.